Tonight on a special edition of Politicat, 4 Republican presidential candidates go head-to-head in Motor City. Running out of time, does Donald Trump's Super Tuesday romp prove the frontrunner is unstoppable? And a mad scramble by the GOP establishment trying to decide who to endorse and how to keep the party of Lincoln together. It's Politicat, it's live, and it begins now. Good evening, I'm Jesse Kirsch reporting tonight live from Detroit, Michigan, ahead of the 11th Republican presidential debate. We're here in Motor City. It's been snowing all afternoon, but the real blizzard is Donald Trump sweeping Super Tuesday, taking many states by storm and really shocking the Republican Party. Today, former Massachusetts governor and a 2012 nominee for the Republican Party for President Mitt Romney came out today, rebuked Trump, calling him, quote, a fraud. Also piling it on was New Mexico Governor Susana Martinez, who endorsed Senator Marco Rubio earlier today as well. Martinez, who some believe could be a VP nominee for the Republican Party, refused to say on Tuesday whether or not she would be willing to endorse Donald Trump should he eventually become the nominee. And this really underscores the divisiveness that we've seen within the Republican Party. Plenty of people piling it on against Trump, but NNN's Eric Miller joins me now live back in Evanston. And Eric, Donald Trump has had a few people come to his aid as well, but that support hasn't always been so helpful.
Thank you very much, and that's right, Jesse. Trump has picked up some support recently, most notably from former KKK leader David Duke. Trump previously declined to disavow the support, but this morning called Duke, quote, a bad person. I'd expect tonight's debate moderators to ask Trump about that.
And speaking of those moderators, Eric, this is the first time Donald will be going face-to-face with moderator Megyn Kelly. The last time these two went at it in the first Republican debate, there was a lot of talk leading up to it and afterward, considering the way the two duked it out. Do you think that could happen again tonight?
Jesse, I think that is absolutely possible. Now, the really big thing about Trump and Kelly is the last time Trump declined to appear in a debate, he ended up losing Iowa. So that could potentially have forced him into this position where he feels he has to answer Megyn Kelly's questions, has to be here tonight, has to kind of stand up for himself and not flake out or blame his behavior on flimsy excuses.
And moving on to a couple of the other candidates who are going to be in the debate tonight, what are they going to have to do to separate themselves from Donald Trump? He seems to be running away with this thing.
Jesse, at the last debate, Cruz and Rubio really hammered Trump, but it's unclear if this gave them any sort of advantage on Super Tuesday. Now, in the past, the two senators primarily focused on each other during debates, and with Tuesday failing to provide a clear alternative to Trump, we could see a return to this pattern tonight. Now, Kasich usually calls for a return to civility for the primary season. That's been his modus operandi during past debates, but the Ohio governor failed to win a single state on Super Tuesday, and so he may try a different approach tonight. Now, Trump's clearly cemented himself as the front runner for the Republican Party. It's now a matter of whether Senator Marco Rubio or Senator Ted Cruz can break out as the clear alternative.
And trying to boost up those alternatives possibly would be Mitt Romney, who we mentioned earlier, spoke today across the nation, got a lot of attention. But also you had Senator John McCain, who has tumbled with Trump before, speaking out earlier today. The two of them are rebuking Trump, and this is something we've seen from other establishment Republicans, but Trump's firing right back. Earlier today, he tweeted that Romney begged for his endorsement back in 2012. Of course, Romney's spokesman then denying that accusation later on in the day, so we'll follow up on that report. But it seems like Donald Trump might be impenetrable, and tonight's debate stage could provide a chance for him to really solidify that. Eric, thanks again. We'll be sure to check in with you later on in the night. We're going to take a quick break here at Politicat, and when we return, we're going to check in on how things are shaping up in Evanston as students at Northwestern look to Election Day. We'll be right back.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Northwestern. Go Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all the go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Why hang around waiting for opportunity to knock when instead you can track opportunity down and knock on its door? You might ask, what's the best way to identify where opportunity lives? Here's a hint. Its door is colored purple. Northwestern University. Opportunity awaits your knock.
Why spend your entire life looking for some on-ramp to the road to opportunity when there's already a well-traveled path? So you may be wondering, what does that path look like? Is it paved with gold? Well, here's a hint. It's actually paved with purple. Northwestern University. Your road starts here.
Welcome back to this live Politicat special in Detroit ahead of the GOP Republican debate. We're going to go back to Eric Miller in Evanston for a little bit more on how Super Tuesday really shook things up. Eric?
Thanks, Jesse. Now, Super Tuesday really served to solidify the position of the front runners for both parties, and they solidified their leads in big ways. Now, on the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton extended her lead. The former Secretary of State swept the Southeast plus Massachusetts, taking 7 states for the night. Bernie Sanders took 4 states, including his home state of Vermont. Sanders now trails Clinton by more than 500 delegates. On the other side of the aisle, Donald Trump also extended his lead, taking 7 states. This puts him a quarter of the way to the 1,237 delegates needed to win the Republican nomination. Now, Marco Rubio had a rough showing Tuesday despite close finishes in several states. The Florida senator only managed to pull out a win in Minnesota. Now, Ted Cruz came in second for the night. He pulled in 3 states. And most importantly, Cruz won his home state of Texas, giving him a much-needed boost. He now trails Trump by less than 100 delegates. And now joining me on desk, we're going to turn over to Dominic here. Now, Dominic, Cruz won 3 states Tuesday, Texas, Oklahoma, and Alaska. Does that make him the best choice for the Never Trump crowd?
Well, the best choice for the Never Trump crowd is really coming from who the establishment likes. And at this point, we've never seen Cruz be an establishment favorite. You look at Senator Marco Rubio has more support and more endorsements from establishment Republicans as we've seen them. And while Cruz may be better in the polls, I think Rubio still technically has the support of the establishment at this point.
And Rubio had a couple of really close finishes on Tuesday, most notably Virginia, where he was trailing Donald Trump by fewer than 30,000 votes. Does that help him at all?
Well, it certainly helps him, considering when you're in proportional states still, you'd rather be close than far. But considering that we have 1 or 2 candidates yet to get out of this race, probably before it's 3 to the convention, considering one of those is John Kasich, the closer Rubio is, the more those Kasich voters most likely to break to Rubio when Kasich gets out. So being close helps him at this point.
And is Kasich going to have to drop out in order for Rubio to start getting some wins, especially when we get to states like Florida where it's winner take all?
Well, like you said, even with Kasich in it, Rubio was close in some of the primaries we've seen on Super Tuesday and in the past. So Kasich certainly getting out would certainly help Rubio, but we're on margins here, 2, 3, 4% in some places. So we could see even just a change in rhetoric from one of these candidates could help Rubio.
And Trump has to get to 1,237 delegates before the convention to get the Republican nomination. Is the goal at this point even to win more states than Trump, or is it just to stop him hitting that number and sort things out when we get to the convention?
Well, I think that kind of depends on who you listen to. You listen to Mitt Romney today talk about Florida voters, if you don't like Trump, well, vote for Rubio. Ohio voters, if you don't like Trump, vote for Kasich. And that's the path you take to go to convention. Now, that's probably the easiest and most clear path forward at this point.
Great, great. And now we're going to take you back to Jesse Kirsch back in Detroit. Jesse, do you have anything for us?
Thanks, Eric. Still to come here on this Politicat special, We're going to go inside the debate hall, take a look at what we're going to see, the hot topics for the night, who will be throwing punches. It's the final moments leading up to the 11th GOP debate right after this.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Why hang around waiting for opportunity to knock when instead you can track opportunity down and knock on its door? You might ask, what's the best way to identify where opportunity lives? Here's a hint. Its door is colored purple. Northwestern University. Opportunity awaits your knock.
Why spend your entire life looking for some on-ramp to the road to opportunity when there's already a well-traveled path? So you may be wondering, what does that path look like? Is it paved with gold? Well, here's a hint. It's actually paved with purple. Northwestern University. Your road starts here.
And welcome back to Politicat. So we know what the Super Tuesday states think of Donald Trump, but what about here on campus? NNN hit the streets to get your view on the Republican frontrunner.
I think Donald Trump's a bigot. I think he's more interested in ratings and reality TV and saying big things than actually knowing how to do policy.
I agree with some of his views, but I think he can be a little harsh, and he doesn't know how to filter himself.
I think, well, he really says what a lot of people in the United States want to hear, and it's kind of disappointing that's the case because a lot of the stuff that he says is very pointed and bigoted and very Islamophobic.
Here on campus, I have a lot of friends who are pro-Trump, which is very interesting.
People find him entertaining, and so I think they're like, hey, you know, this guy's kind of fun, he says crazy stuff, and so maybe it'd be fun to have him as president. Or
his economic policy, you know, isn't too crazy. It's actually fairly distributive.
They really like that campaign phrase, "Make America Great Again." They're really into that.
I think he's good at stirring up fear in the American people.
He really plays to people's fears and says what people want to hear, sort of.
I don't want him in control of, like, you know, any kind of nuclear weapons. I don't want him deciding if we're going to war. I don't want him deciding, like, you know, who's going to get, like, you know, government benefits. I don't think he's a very compassionate person.
It's unfortunate that he is as popular as he is. I mean, it looks like he'll probably be getting the Republican nod, and, you know, it really says a lot about the Republican Party right now.
We all thought it was a joke that would be over by now, but it's getting more and more serious.
Northwestern students registered to vote in Illinois will get the chance to have their voices heard at the Illinois primary on March 15th. Now, Jesse, we're going to go live back to you in Detroit.
All right, thanks, Eric and Dominic. I want to weigh in now on some of what we've talked about. Marco Rubio, he has the most endorsements across Congress, across the Senate, the House of Representatives, people from across the country, and yet he really only has Minnesota to his name from Super Tuesday. Is this his last-ditch effort tonight?
I don't think it's his last-ditch effort quite yet. I think you're going to see, and remember, on Super Tuesday, he only won Minnesota, but he was a lot closer than expected to be in a lot of those other proportional states, Jesse. So is this important tonight? Certainly, because he definitely needs a win in Florida to get any further in this primary. But don't count him out too much.
All right, well, someone who might be down for the count is Dr. Ben Carson. We have not talked about him much tonight. At the beginning of this campaign season, That was one of the names that you were hearing every day, and now he looks like he's just about ready to drop out of the race tomorrow. We're expecting an announcement from him. Why didn't he just suspend his campaign already?
Well, I think Dr. Ben Carson, and remember, Dr. Ben Carson was the political commentator on the right before he even got into this. I think he still wants to have something to say what's going on in the politics of the moment and the issues of the day. I think that's why you're seeing Carson hesitant to step out completely before he's completely ready to do so.
And then moving on to Governor John Kasich of Ohio. He's someone who in a normal election cycle might be the man at the top of the pack today, but he's at the bottom. Is he even going to be relevant in this debate tonight, Dominic?
He's going to be relevant because everyone's going to be watching to see what John Kasich does. John Kasich thus far has stayed above board when it comes to Donald Trump. He's a positive guy. He talks about ideas. He doesn't want to get into the nitty-gritty of attack politics. We'll see if he changes that tune tonight when the entire establishment, like you said, in a regular establishment election, John Kasich's doing very well. So we'll see if he starts taking shots at Donald Trump too, to see if the establishment can stop Donald Trump.
When you talk about taking shots at Donald Trump, everything that they've tried to throw at him has not worked. He says something that people think would cause a whole ruckus, and it actually boosts him in the polls half the time. Is there something that can be done on that stage tonight to mess with Donald Trump's numbers?
I'm not sure that's clear, Jesse. Like you said, Donald Trump supporters, regardless of what happens, seems to stay with Donald Trump. It's a matter of, can Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz or John Kasich convince anyone else that, hey, I'm the guy that should be leading this ticket and anyone else can fall back behind me. That's the best way to get, I think, ahead of Donald Trump at this point, is by completely ignoring him, let Donald do his thing, or perhaps mess up. But otherwise, you have to unite and see if everyone else can agree on someone else.
Well, at the same time, you talk about agreeing on someone else. If they go after each other, isn't that just going to boost Trump a little bit more?
Oh, certainly. And Trump thrives in a situation where everyone on the stage is angry. So that's something to think about tonight, too. But it certainly helps Trump when the other Republican candidates are taking shots at each other. I don't think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see everyone, even perhaps John Kasich tonight, looking at Trump and saying, we don't want you to be our nominee.
All right, well, we know that there's going to be a lot of fists thrown in the air tonight, but now let's move on to the issues. I have right off the top of my head the Supreme Court nomination battle, the recent Kalamazoo shooting here in Michigan, and also the Flint water crisis. And then, of course, you have the KKK situation that happened over the weekend for Donald Trump. How is this all going to factor in tonight into a debate that could have been about anything else in the months earlier?
Well, issues in this case can hurt Donald Trump. Keep in mind, Trump not necessarily known and hasn't been heralded in this election for his policy ideas. The more substance that's brought up, I think the worse it is for Trump, so long as the other candidates can control the debate. Just if you let Trump get too much into his usual rhetoric, they lose it. But if the other candidates can stay focused on ideas to solve meaningful ideas for the Supreme Court, meaningful ideas for areas like Flint or Kalamazoo, conservative ideas, I think you'll see Donald Trump not do as well tonight and the other candidates do better, but they have to maintain that focus.
And speaking of policy points in particular, there's been some speculation going on that Donald Trump might have said something off the record to the New York Times about his immigration plans. Do you think that's going to continue to bubble over? Or is that something that might have run its course?
I think it'll run its course shortly here. I'm not sure if you'll see anyone bring it up tonight, simply because one of the points that Donald Trump has had on the other candidates so much is their immigration plans, both on Rubio and Cruz. You've seen them fight a little bit. He certainly disagrees with John Kasich on immigration too. So I think they'll avoid attacking Trump on that issue because it's worked very well when Trump attacks them on that issue. The other candidates won't want to open the door, Jesse.
All right, Dominic, thank you so much, and Eric, to you as well for joining me tonight. So that's going to wrap up our coverage here live from Detroit. We're about a minute away from the debate scheduled start time on Fox News. You can also check it out online. Be sure to follow our continuing coverage at NNN_news on Snapchat and Twitter. Check our Facebook page as well for updates. And of course, NNNTV.org for plenty of coverage throughout the year on this 2016 campaign and everything else that matters to the Northwestern community. For our entire team here in Detroit, I'm Jesse Kirsch, reminding you that this could be the night that Donald Trump locks things down for the Republican nomination. For all of us here in Detroit, thank you for joining us live. I'm Jesse Kirsch. This has been Politicat. Have a good night.